cannot handle Trump. We know what Donald Trump will do if Mamdani is elected.
You know, we have long known that Andrew Cuomo is Donald Trump's puppet in this race. What we did not quite expect is for him to become his parrot in the final days as well.
Andrew Cuomo is responsible for elevating Zohran Mamdani to an international figure now. And I'm the only one on the ground who can take him out.
Just hours away from polls opening, that's obviously the New York City mayor's race, which got a ton of attention this cycle. The Wall Street Journal, election wins Tuesday won't ease a divided Democratic Party's troubles. Even if Democrats secure wins, they will still wake Wednesday morning with serious political headaches. That's because the balloting, which also includes a New York City mayoral election, will likely deliver a muddled verdict on a central debate in the party. Do Democrats need to be more moderate or more progressive if they want to win in next year's midterm elections and beyond? Let's start there with our panel. Fox News chief political analyst Brit Hume, Fox News contributor Mary Catherine Ham, Hugh Hewitt, also a Fox News contributor, and Yemisi Egbewale, former chief of staff and advisor to the Biden White House press office. Yemisi, as you look at this, how do you see it? You know, from a Democratic point of view, as you look at this election and what comes out of it?
I think New York and Virginia are showing what Democrats have always said, that we are a big tent party. And I think this is going to be a great small example of what the midterms will look like. Candidates that are tailored to the areas that they live in. Mamdani and his policies work for the deep blue city of New York City, focused on affordability, but also Spanberger is talking about affordability, just packaged in a different way. I think that it's been great to watch Spanberger, Mikey Sherrill, and Mamdani all work as centrists and as progressives within the Democratic Party, and I think it's going to give Democrats momentum as we look to the midterms.
Britt, obviously President Trump disagrees. Here he is on 60 Minutes on this mayor's race.
But what if Mamdani becomes mayor?
It's going to be hard for me as the president to give a lot of money to New York because if you have a communist running New York, all you're doing is wasting the money you're sending there. So I don't know that he's won, and I'm not a fan of Cuomo one way or the other, but if it's going to be between a bad Democrat and a communist, I'm going to pick the bad Democrat all the time.
Just within the past hour, he put on Truth Social a vote for Curtis Sliwa, who looks much better without the beret, is a vote for Mamdani. Whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him and hope he does a fantastic job. He is capable of it. Mamdani is not, which Mamdani's camp put out a reaction to the 60 Minutes interview saying, "Congratulations, Andrew Cuomo. I know how hard you worked for this," as far as an endorsement of Cuomo. Britt, your thoughts on this race and its impact?
Well, no matter where you turn in politics these days, the United States of America, in the background and often not very far in the background, is one thing: Donald Trump. Donald Trump is an issue in all of this, and they talk about, Democratic candidates talk about affordability, and they talk about certain other things. Mamdani's got all kinds of exotic promises of the things he's going to provide for free. But make no mistake about it, Trump is a factor in this election, and he's done nothing to try to keep himself from being a factor. But these are states, the two states involved, the two governorships involved, those are states that Democrats should win. And the New York mayor's race is a sort of a freak race, really, in which this socialist selling snake oil has managed to get himself into a position against a disgraced former governor regarded by so many as an odious figure, and a Republican candidate who's run for these offices so many times and is not considered serious. So he may get in. The thing to watch tomorrow night, which seems to me, is will Mamdani get over 50%? That would be interesting.
Yeah. Mary Catherine, the other president in this mix, at least campaigning, is President Obama. The front page of the New York Post says he refuses to endorse Zohran Mamdani, saying, "No thank you, Mom." He is praising the campaign. He called the campaign, but he's really campaigning in Virginia and New Jersey.
Yeah, he sort of finessed the Mamdani thing by having a conversation and offering guidance, but not really committing to it. In Virginia, he was on the trail with Abigail Spanberger, who's the top of the ticket, but notably he gave his traditional civility spiel before on the same stage as Jay Jones, who is the Democratic AG nominee, who is famous in this somewhat quirky race for his murder texts, where he imagines that the Republican Speaker of the House should be shot in the head. So that maybe under that took out that message for him. But look, I think I'm not sure I agree with the Wall Street Journal, with what the Wall Street Journal posits, because victory can be a great salve. And these are Democrat plus 6 states, Virginia and New Jersey. And Republicans are fighting an uphill battle, but I would say they're fighting it like they've been in the gym. They're making it close, particularly on that AG race. I think New Jersey might be the more representative of what might happen in the future in midterms, because Virginia has so many federal workers. It's a slightly different state. There's also the question to me of whether the Republicans' new lower propensity voter coalition will come together or come out in an off year. That is a tough question. You might look for that in Passaic County, in New Jersey, where Hispanic voters might come out. But Harris lost margins to Trump most in an interlocking group of young men, irregular voters, particularly of color and Latino voters. Do those guys stick around? Are they adhered to the party? We will see some answers on that, I think, in New Jersey most notably.
Yeah, we may know earlier on in the night how the demographic looks. Hugh, your thoughts?
Well, I think Mamdani is the most interesting race of all, and I think New York is going to be burdened by his win if indeed he wins. I think President Trump did everything he could for Andrew Cuomo last night on 60 Minutes by making it very clear, bad Democrat, communist. And I think Britt was being kind to him when he called him a snake oil socialist. I think he's an anti-Semitic communist, and I believe Republicans hold the future of the Big Apple in their hands. If you vote for Curtis Lee, well, you're throwing away your vote. Curtis cannot win. Known him for a long time. He cannot win. Donald Trump laid it out last night. You got a choice between Andrew Cuomo, and this is the key to me, Brett. 300,000 people work for the city of New York. 300,000. Zohran Mamdani has run an office of 10 people for 6 years. It will be catastrophic, the consequences of the mismanagement he visits upon Manhattan and the other boroughs. And I just hope New York comes to its senses and the Republicans save it from their worst instincts, the pandering of Zohran Mamdani.
You know, Britt, I just want to ask you, the tele-town halls President Trump has done for Citarelli in New Jersey and Winsome Earl Sears in Virginia, he's trying to move the voters. In both of those states, he outperformed the last election. In New Jersey, it was 6 points in a blue state. In Virginia, it went to single digits as well. Can he move Trump voters in an off-year election?
That's a big question, whether he can do that. The attachment of those voters to him personally is pretty strong, and whether he could translate that into support for other candidates is a big question. If he can, that will say a lot about what could happen in the midterms, because he'll campaign all over the place. First midterm of a president newly in office is usually pretty darn bad for the incumbent party in the White House. So that'll be worth watching, whether he can move voters in those states, even if the Republicans don't win. If turnout beats, say, the last time around, that would tell you something.
And Yemisi, quickly, Prop 50 out in California, there doesn't seem to be any doubt that Gavin Newsom is going to get what he wants as far as redistricting.
Yeah, I think this is a great test of strength for Gavin Newsom. He saw what happened in Texas. He hopped on it immediately. If he's building something to 2028, a win right here is going to be the boost that he needs.
All right, panel stand.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.